Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order. We are short two members, so we will not approve the minutes because we will not be taking action on anything at this time. Ordinance 972, established process for marijuana businesses, public hearing, first reading tonight. Dennison got a chance to revamp that. Did anyone have any, I mean, he saw our changes. Dave, Lonnie, did you get a chance to review that?
Yeah, I didn't see issues.
Okay. I mean,
I did get, some public comment on the ordinance, and
Okay.
I don't know if I need to follow up and see if she's gonna plan on being here tonight too.
good or bad, or doesn't,
Pardon?
are we making it too easy for him to transfer?
No, it's, I think
Or
it's
was it
some
just in
fancy-
general?
It's the kind of follow-up to how it got here to start with,
Okay,
so.
well, and
But it is public input and comment, and it may,
okay.
so.
Will you share that tonight?
Yeah,
Or,
and
okay,
I'm gonna actually share it, with you right now,
okay.
even.
I guess my main concern is just the ordinance do what we want it to do, so, I think it does.
You were in, the other thing I was looking for is my little decision-making matrix is there, but that's kind of like, because tonight, if we go to tonight, that's actually up for,
Public hearing and action.
that's up for action tonight, it's above
Yeah.
the gold.
Because we have in here, you know, the application process, which was already in place, is section 2. Section 3 is an approved marijuana business may only operate in accordance with the application submitted and approved by the city. Any alteration, change in location, change in business type or structure, or any other deviation from the submitted and approved application on file with the city shall subject said business back to the application process. And then, the next section, business registration transfer, an approved marijuana business may transfer their business registration to a new business owner or entity so long as there are no changes in location, no alterations to the business type or structure, or any other deviation from the submitted and approved application on file. So that's the criteria for just a transfer. The city may require additional information from the new business owner or entity to ensure their qualifications meet the same requirements as the established business. So that's our safeguard in there. And then the other thing is the failure to operate in accordance with the application submitted will result in the marijuana business losing their right to operate said businesses in the city limits. So that's, again, our protection. So do we need in there that, another section, I guess? That was my only question. Does that fix that? Because we're saying it's just a transfer. And then if the new business is totally new and they're just buying the license and they're doing something different, that would open it up, right?
Yeah.
Does it say that in there? Do you get that out of that?
Well, and that's when, the other comment you made that I'm not sure I agree with completely is you said that describes the process. Does that now describe what the process is, or did it section 1, the number of marijuana business registrations permitted within the city of Red Lodge shall be capped at 2. This includes, but not limited to, dispensary, cultivator, manufacturer, combined use license, testing laboratory, and transport facilities. And then section 2, the application process, the city shall use a weighted application process to select the businesses to be allowed to operate within the city. Said process shall consist of at least 3 council members and 1 city representative, and shall involve notifying the public of the opening and the submitted application. The city will then establish a time frame to allow other businesses to potentially submit competing applications. So, does
so the ordinance does not define what that grid looks like, it just says that there shall be one.
There shall be one, yes.
So, and I think in resolution says that.
On the fees,
No, the application.
On the, what that
Approving the
rating
application.
system would be.
on the, yeah, I would.
Yeah,
resolution.
That's another thing, I mean, that's a whole other thing, is the application itself.
Yeah.
You know, I think that probably does need to be revisited, because I don't, but,
Is there a playbook to go by?
I don't know if do any other municipalities cap it, where you have this open application system? You know, the county does, but I don't know if they actually have an application system.
But does the city have currently have a written document that directs the process?
We-
And what the weighting is?
We have an application that was used for the current two ones, we had 5 different applicants apply for it, and they filled it out.
Right.
What,
But is the weighting process, how they're judged for approval, is that in writing anywhere, or is that just?
There was a resolution before, I don't think
Yeah.
There's something, 'cause
that needs to be set. We had
Yeah,
something
I
before
think
it,
that
but
needs
to
to be-
Rod's point,
it
I
needs to
don't
be
know that it was adequately documented.
there was one city council person that participated, because every other city council person did not agree with the way the application was written and the whole process.
Right.
So that application was not approved by council. It was created, by staff at that time. And, we all had, for whatever reason, different issues with that application and refused to participate in the process. So,
Everybody that was in city government at that time were not here the next time. There's a lot of knowledge that's just gonna be,
That's what I said, there needs to be a resolution written to say what those elements are. That
And it
says
needs
that
to be
it will be 3 people of council.
yes,
uh,
yes.
that's the next phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I think, is that there's.
It is,
Get
absolutely.
it done before you need it instead of.
Right, my thing was, I thought it should be a blind application, where you're not just, it should be on the basis of, a weighted basis on the application itself, and not who's applying for it, because it, I felt that it was, the application was geared to
But I think-
pick certain ones.
I guess the state would
And what's
handle
that?
the background,
Correct,
all those things, because it'd be similar to the liquor license.
right,
The city's not gonna be doing background checks or anything like that.
correct, yeah.
We get out of that just by saying they comply with state regulations.
And they use things, they allowed it like downtown, but then I think they chose who it was based on where they were going to be. So, and I think that's a planning, that's a zoning thing, so,
I think going back to your ordinance, the one that you just read, where you
Yeah.
talked about it shall be done by, read that paragraph again.
the city shall use a weighted application process to select the businesses to be allowed to operate within the city. Said process shall consist of at least 3 council members and 1 city representative, and shall involve notifying the public of the opening and the submitted application. The city will then establish a time frame to allow other businesses to potentially submit competing applications.
So what I look at in that I would change, where you said that they shall use a weighted time form, I would just say maybe set by resolution.
Okay,
And then I wonder if the time frame is also set by resolution.
okay. So shall use a weighted application process set by resolution?
Yeah,
Or is that what you want to say?
yeah, that's something, just because that
Okay.
way you say, then there's a resolution to do that.
Right. And now we're putting it in the ordinance that you need 3 city council people. I don't think that was
Right,
there before.
Right, so
Because-
that'll keep that part followed. Then the second part is, what is your time frame? Why is the time frame not being set in the ordinance?
I would say it just needs to be a public
our normal public notice that it's out there, right? Lonnie, what do you think? Like anything that we public notice that this is, you know, here we have a
15
planning board,
days.
yeah, we have a planning board application, or, position available, we have a city council vacancy.
I
where
think,
we
I think
have
it's, I don't know that it's the same as the volunteer organizations. I think of it more like,
The
there's a
legal,
bid, what's our RFP bid, 15 days minimum?
I don't know if there is a minimum, but we just put it out there long enough for people to.
So, but my
30
question
days,
is,
60
why do
days?
we not set that it's gonna be publicly noticed, and read the part that talks about the timeframe again?
okay, shall the process consist of at least 3 council members? The city will then establish a time frame to allow other businesses to potentially submit competing applications.
So are we gonna set that number here, are we gonna set it by resolution, or what is the,
So like when a vacancy, or not vacancy, but when a spot opens up, is
Mhm.
that like a license?
yeah,
Yeah.
if there's gonna be are we gonna say there's an opening and put it for 2 weeks?
Or let's say, you know, Red Lodge grows and we have 5,000 people, maybe we want to add another license to
Well, but
the
that's
town
not
of
that, that's another section there.
Right, no, but I'm saying if we end up with
Oh,
another.
if we add, yeah, how are we gonna initially announce that?
I
Right.
don't know if you would put it in the resolution, just the process,
Yeah,
because.
so I would say you'd wanna at least give them 30 days to apply.
Mhm.
Because they've gotta get their stuff together, they've gotta figure out where they're gonna be, they've gotta, you know, their whole business plan. I mean, you've
Yeah,
gotta
would
get them
that-
time.
But would that be included in this ordinance?
Well, to me, we do one of two things, we either set it in the ordinance, or we say it'll be set by resolution, or how long? 'Cause
I would set by resolution, so in there.
Okay,
Or the other thing is you said shall set a time, rather than saying set time, you just say shall allow appropriate time to response or something.
I
Read-
still think you should in the ordinance, think you, because you gotta remember ordinances are a lot trickier.
Right, I said, we're gonna set
Well, I can say
the grid by resolution. The ordinance says we'll set the grid, the criteria by resolution.
And then within there, you set your timelines and stuff within the resolution, because if you set
Okay.
it by ordinance.
So you can change that so
Timeframe.
that can be done within the same resolution?
okay, so the city will then establish a time frame set by,
Or the resolution shall also establish there you go. So change it to,
okay,
the resolution shall also establish a time frame, and then that can be part of the resolution.
so,
Timeframe
Also-
referring to,
for new applicants to, so the city can notice it
right?
and
how
give
clear
them
is-
time to
If I
apply.
pick that piece of paper up, do I understand what timeframe means?
So read, when you get done with your notes, read that paragraph back to us again.
Okay, so it will say, application process, the city shall use a weighted application process set by resolution to select the businesses to be allowed to operate within the city. Said process shall consist of at least 3 city council members, or 3 council members, and 1 city representative, and shall involve notifying the public of the opening and the submitted application. The resolution shall also establish a time frame to allow other businesses to potentially submit competing applications.
Yes, no, purple?
Yeah? It's just when we're all gone and they read it, they understand what it meant.
Yeah, well, the resolution itself then
But
will,
the resolution clarifies all the details.
right, exactly, which we have. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, but we don't count. You're one of 6.
Well,
and the other 5
I'm
will be
just,
there.
like, I want your input, I mean, like, do you think, okay, so, okay. So I guess that would be, that's the whole process. And as long as in section 4, there's no changes, then it doesn't open it up, is what Dennison was, what we were referring to then. We don't have to put in there, like, if any license opens up, whether it's through we add a license or we, there's one that doesn't meet the criteria of 3 or 4, or, I mean, a 4, where it's a transfer from same to
It's
same.
allowing for simple transfer of ownership.
Right,
If it's an existing business type
right,
and same location, then it doesn't open it up.
right. Yeah, as long as there are no changes in location, no alterations to the business type or structure, or any other deviation from the submitted and approved application on file. So, Otherwise, it goes to section 2 and it opens it up. If it doesn't meet that, okay. All right.
And
Uh,
does it say, does it address anything in an existing business changing their business model?
Yeah, if they change their use from the 7 uses, then that has to be, that goes into the process again, yes?
Yes,
Does it open it up to everybody?
if
So I
they
own the
change
one
their
down-
process, yes,
If
If they-
So if they add one of the 7,
yeah. Like,
They're-
we're not
they're
just
only
gonna be,
doing
we're not
one.
just gonna be a retail, we're also gonna be growing in our back lot.
or laboratory,
Yeah, whatever, then that opens it back up.
Does
because-
it say that very clearly? Read the part that says that.
Okay, it says, may transfer their business registration to a new business owner or equity so long as there is no change in location, no alterations to the business type or structure, or any other deviation from the submitted and approved application on file.
But that starts with transfer to another thing. What if I'm in the same location?
Then
What
that
if I'm
is,
existing?
an approved marijuana business license may only operate in accordance with the application submitted and approved by the city. Any alteration, change in location, change in business type or structure, or any other deviation from the submitted and approved application on file with the city shall subject said business to the application process.
With everybody,
With everybody.
or,
The whole application process is in section 2, application process. The city shall use a weighted application process set by
so
resolution.
yeah, so if you wanted to change it to something else,
You're
that's
now,
gonna discourage them from doing that, because somebody else could compete with them at that
Yeah.
point.
open it up.
Did
Yep.
you say business license or business registration? You said business license,
did I? Where was that?
in the beginning of that paragraph you just read.
The approved may operate in accordance with the application submitted and approved by the city. Any alteration submitted and approved application and said business to the application process. Where was it? The city shall use a weighted application process. Help me, words. I don't see any licenses. An approved marijuana business may transfer, no changes, no, may require additional from any business owner. I don't see it.
It's just what you read.
Maybe I was making stuff up that I was reading.
That's why she's having you read it.
I know. The city shall use a weighted application process to select the businesses to be allowed to operate within the city. Said process shall consist of at least 3 council members and 1 council representative, and it shall involve notifying the public of the opening and the submitted application. The resolution shall also establish a time frame to allow other businesses to potentially submit competing applications. An approved marijuana business may only operate in accordance with the application submitted and approved by the city. Any alteration, change in location, change in business
That's the word right there.
change in business type or structure, or any deviation from the submitted and approved application on file shall subject the business to the application process.
I wonder if you just added it as
Yeah,
you were
if you
reading.
just, if you, because that's right where you were, and you didn't say it this time.
Okay, sorry. I'm like, yeah, I just make,
Just wondered if that should end in clarifying that it opens it up for review of other.
okay, so just add said business to the application process, including,
Or is it in the number 3 that you were reading that talks about the application process, that just says
that's where I'm at right
it's
here.
opened up always?
That's
That's a public
shall
opening.
subject the business to the application process, including opening it up to outside businesses. Would that clarify it more?
Consideration of other business.
Yeah, including
Or open application, or,
Yeah,
open application to new business applicants, or,
if you just say, if it's an open application process, I think that would mean,
okay, business to the open application process, like that?
does that work?
want to make sure that whoever reads it understands that
You change it, you
You
just,
change it, you're now back in the pool
right, and you,
and have to earn.
And your existence may
that may be
benefit
part
you
of
in the
waiting.
waiting process,
yeah,
but,
but you don't know that.
yeah.
Okay, so then that would read, an approved marijuana business may only operate in accordance with the application submitted and approved by the city. Any alteration, change in location, change in business type or structure, or any other deviation from the submitted and approved application on file with the city shall subject said business to the open application process. Think they would get that?
I think basically you're just trying to preserve what you've already approved.
Right.
And I suspect nobody really wants to expose themselves to the possibility of losing
They're
their
like,
approved business,
yeah, their
That's our working
registration.
assumption.
unless it's, you know, really worth the risk of
Can-
whatever they're trying to change to.
For tonight, can you do an updated Word copy with all of the changes you've done highlighted? So in
yeah.
yellow, so that we can give it to everybody?
Or do you want me to do it?
Would you do it? Because I don't think I have the
Okay.
Word document of this from
Oh,
Dennison.
do you not have the Word document?
No, not with Dennison, what he did.
Yeah, no, I can make the changes.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
That's how did, yeah, never mind, okay.
Because Dennison has the final copy of this.
Oh, he has the most, so what you're saying is if you have a copy, it might be not as current?
Yeah, what I have is what
Okay.
Chelsea sent with the
Okay.
question marks and stuff, so. I
Gotcha,
don't have
gotcha.
that. I don't have that, so. Okay, all right, I will give you this one, if you can read my
So
writing.
the other part of that I handed out
Okay.
is the city
So,
attorney, oh, wait,
I'm sorry, add set by resolution there, and cross that out, and add the resolution shall also establish a time frame to allow other businesses to, and then just add open there.
Okay,
That,
I'll make changes and send them to you, and then you.
okay, yeah,
and will you just highlight them in yellow so that they're different than what was in the packet, it will be really obvious? The other thing that I handed out, one of the things I handed out, the short one, is the resolution for the ballot language, this one that says draft on it. So this is the resolution, if you flip it to the back, you can see what the ballot language would be, vote for one, for continuing to allow a cultivator, or against allowing a cultivator to grow within there. His recommendation when he sent this over, this was in part due to conversation at the county, but I understood it to be different from his initial recommendation, which was telling us we had to do this. His most recent recommendation is it necessary to stir this up because the ordinance actually limits it to 2? And so do we bring this up now or not? And to me, that's a council decision.
I think we do, I think we want it nailed down one way or the
I
other.
think the question you're gonna get from your voter base,
Mhm.
I'm not a participant in this particular
Right,
thing, but, the private growers, are they gonna?
Yeah, how do we do that in the,
well, and that's where I
Not
wanted
affecting
to,
my right to grow my own.
right, and that's where I
Or do
wanted
they
to
have a right
add
to grow?
commercial cultivator and commercial grow facility. You know, if that would alleviate, you know, it's not against the private person who has so many, you know, whatever your allowed plants in your house or whatever, you know, to grow your own.
But will the common voter
Yeah.
be enough to understand that?
And that's why, I mean, we have in there, cultivator marijuana business or grow facility, the ability to, could we add commercial grow facility
well,
there?
so what I'm wondering is,
Because
if
I'm
it has
still
to match the language, whereas marijuana businesses include, but I've got a question there, whether we can do it or not.
Okay. Because to me, that would be yeah, I mean, I don't want people to think we're infringing on
Well, and
their
the
right
other,
to
the
grow
other
plants.
thing that I think would be helpful is that the existing business owners were the ones who recommended not allowing that within the city.
Right.
Otherwise, we still have to zone for it.
And that's why I wanted, really why I want to do this. We have no place to zone for it.
Can, you address it through zoning?
We have to address it through zoning, and we have to allow it, and that can't take into account smells in the process.
Right. Take everybody on a tour of Bear Creek and they can figure it out from there.
Yeah, well, most everybody, when they drive, they get it. They're like,
Do you smell it over from Bear Creek, the
When you
grocery store?
drive by the actual building, but I don't smell it at my house.
Okay.
And
So-
it's not every day you smell it, it just depends on whenever
Which way the
they're-
wind's blowing?
Well, I think they have, well, the process of it, I guess, when they're actually mixing it, or however they, I don't know the process. is,
Yeah.
But whenever they're doing certain stuff with it, you can definitely smell it, but other days,
yeah, I mean, and some people may say, oh, it's just like having a big greenhouse in town, you know, type of situation.
it's a
So,
little different.
yeah, but yeah, exactly,
But like,
so.
would the existing greenhouse down here turn into a grow facility?
They could right now, yeah, if you zone for it.
Except for our two.
Right, exactly. No, because we do have two, but,
And,
I think we need to, personally, I think we need the public to say yay or nay. And if they say yay, then we'll zone for it. And it'll be included in the two, and then we can't, when we're doing that weighted average, we really can't discriminate against this grow facility versus retail operation, you know, necessarily. If we've got a zone for it and they're going in that zone, you know, it just kind of, but if the public says, no, we don't want, you know, commercial grow facility in town, they can say no because of the smell. We can't say no because of the smell. I guess that's the difference.
so right now, the question I have to Dennison is, can we put commercial in there
Right.
in the ballot language to do that? And then we can put this on for just discussion next time. We've got until like August or September to have this in, so it's not a tomorrow thing, but that was one of the parts of the
Yeah.
conversation
Thank
to
you.
address that. So, and then the other one that I shared, Gail is not able to be here tonight,
Okay,
so that was her comments, and we'll include it in the, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, I was thinking it was 6, but maybe it's,
Mhm.
yeah, that's right, 3 pages there. And she's not gonna be here tonight, so that's in lieu of her comments tonight at this point. So I think we just put that in as comments and Gail,
Yeah, then for the
And-
next package.
and then I can get it to everybody.
Yeah, if you wanna either forward it to me or give me a copy so I can put it in.
Do you not have a copy yet? Okay, I didn't, okay.
Hmm.
I hadn't got down and said I'll not be able to attend it. I was hoping you will take the time to read it. I know that it's,
Definitely more than 3 minutes.
yeah, 6 pages is not,
It looks like it's really a lot.
and a lot of it is questions and comments and stuff, so I don't know that it's, I'll see if there's a way to summarize it and maybe utilize,
You know, just,
but it is the public process, and so we do want to, anyway, so.
well, and she does have a valid question here on almost the last page. What is, you know, where is the follow-up on the conditional use requirements? Are we following up on these, or to make sure, and this has been asked not just about marijuana dispensaries, but other things, you know, when planning board approves something with conditional uses, who's following up to make sure those conditions are met throughout the process, you know, and after the process has been settled? Because we're saying that if they don't follow it, they could lose their registration, you know, their ability to do business.
I can tell you that we did follow up on their conditional use and
Okay.
determined that they were not in violation,
Okay.
so.
So I guess, you know, that would be a good thing to, you know, what is the city process involved in that? Because we are putting these conditions on these businesses, and, I suggest everyone reread the conditional use requirements. Noise and smells both fall under the loss of use and enjoyment of our property. Didn't realize that there were actual smells outside the facility, are there?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's,
And one of the assertions, and again, this is, there's some pushbacks I've had to challenge. They've said that they've had people smoking in the parking lot there. My assertion has always been that it was kind of the same thing when they were talking about kids are gonna get hold of it. And I said, well, I'm not disputing that kids are not gonna get hold of it. The one place that will tell you where they're not getting hold of it is directly from the facility, because that
Right.
facility doesn't wanna risk getting shut down.
right,
And in this particular case, when it has been investigated, it was neighbors that were legally partaking in their backyard and in their property, sort of a thing. So, I don't know, you know, there's the zoning thing going back that I think is wise. It'll address sort of stuff like this in the future. Unfortunately, it doesn't do anything with an existing business. It doesn't impact an existing business that's there. And so that ultimately, as long as a business is willing to stay in that same location with exactly those same parameters, I think they get to continue to operate. I think the ordinance now puts it into a new evaluation going forward, and I hope that what planning board comes up with maybe takes into that account a little bit. But like I said, I think.
So, do we need to address that in the ordinance, that if zoning changes and that's no longer an allowed use in that location,
That doesn't matter. If that's already there, we can change zoning underneath it, but it doesn't,
I'm just trying to think of a way to make it easier for those businesses to change if that ends up being not a place where we want them. So that they aren't, you know, it doesn't go to the whole open application
so what you're
process.
saying is if they want to,
To move,
yeah, if they wanted to move it from that location to a more suitable location,
right,
Based on zoning.
based on zoning, after it's been zoned by the planning board. You kind of see where I'm going with this?
I do, I'm trying to, because what we don't want to do is discourage them from considering someplace else, because they're going to.
Exactly,
So that would be potentially an exception,
to that ordinance, to the
but
open,
if
to
you
the open
did that,
application
I would
process.
basically only say, limit it to, the one exception is if they're going from a location that's no longer allowed in zoning to a new location, that won't trigger,
The open application
that won't
process.
trigger an open application.
Mhm.
I think that's just an additional phrase or comment in there, but I think that's valid. And I think that's important to situations like this, if it comes back. Or do we pencil it up, and I think you do it now,
Mhm.
but alternatively is, do you pencil it up, and if zoning comes back and changes it, do it. I think it's an additional, I think it's whatever that last paragraph.
Because you never
we
know,
did,
zoning
three.
could change 10 years from now, too, you know, I mean, they review those zoning docs all the time. And I understand you're grandfathered into the place that you're in, but at the same time,
We want to
If-
give them an easy path to get out.
exactly, yeah, if,
So I think come up with some wording for that,
okay,
but I think that's a very valid, and I think that helps address some of the concerns.
right. It's like, now you're locking them into this place right by my house, and I don't want them there.
Okay,
Can,
I like that thought process, but.
okay. Lonnie, you have the doc, do you want to just add that to the bottom, or have Dave?
She doesn't want to do the wording, that's council's job.
I know, well, I think you
I don't
just
think
said
they
it
have
was right.
wording yet.
No, we don't.
Add an additional
Makes
provision.
sense, that it allows,
If-
we'll call it a controlled business model, to adjust to
City's
the
wishes,
desire of the city
the desire of the city.
without giving up their business.
Right, without opening them up to this whole open application process.
Because essentially they don't have anything. At that point, it's just like
Yeah,
the transfer question.
right,
If you can't transfer it, you don't really have anything of value.
right. And technically, the way our zoning works is even if it's not allowed, if it stays that same use to the new owner, I think it is allowed, just because you sell it, you know, it's still an
Yeah.
allowed use, even though it's a zoning. But this will make it so that people will, you know, incentivize them, I guess.
We're certainly not, we're not unincentivizing them to consider moving
Right.
to a better location
Right.
from zoning.
So do you think we should like maybe just, have this for next time
That is,
with all these changes?
that is your,
I just would kind of like to get, since we're adding a whole new section, I would like to get Dennison to review that before we vote on it. I
okay?
mean, that's kind of been our standard procedure on that.
I don't disagree.
I was
with
okay
your
with
logic.
adding a couple open and set by resolution, but this is a whole other section, so I don't want to.
Able to, do you have your, hold on, I can see what the date is, just to write it down.
We have an extra, Tuesday, I
We
believe.
have a fifth
Yeah, so
Tuesday,
it's May
Yeah.
13th, I believe, is the next one.
May 13th.
I don't want to be accused of rushing this through or, you know, without, council reviewing it, so.
Yeah, I'll make those ones and then whatever. Dave came up.
And then, but that doesn't impact the planning board. Then you could still talk about that in,
You could still talk about it in the action part. even if
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
table.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah. Okay.
I think what I would do, from a procedural standpoint, is I would have a motion to start the conversation, because that way you can have the conversation. And then, but you could say, after we have our conversation, my intent is to motion to table,
Okay.
based on how this conversation
So I would have to
goes.
move to approve it then, to open it
I'm-
up? Or can I just move to table it?
Well, you could move to table it, but, then there's a second, then what we could do is the discussion could be before we do it about the why. I'm just trying to figure out where the discussion goes. So you could move to table it right off the bat, there could be a second, and then you can discuss it to your little heart's content with all the
I
different
like
elements.
that. I don't want to move, because then if we move to table it right away, that does away with the public hearing. Right?
That is a true statement.
Okay. So we'll move to table, get a second,
And then
we'll.
talk about the why and the what, and,
Yeah, okay.
and all the changes and as much discussion. Are you good for that from a procedure standpoint?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that works.
Okay, perfect. All right, we'll do that then, and, okay. So we are just about out of time. Notifying Carbon County to conduct the 2025 general election by mail ballot, discussion tonight, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Resolution to create a separate fund for the EDA grant, discussion tonight, that's,
Just to make my life easier to keep everything in one spot.
yep, okay. Resolution of intent to award the 16-inch bypass project for the city of Red Lodge, that's pretty standard too. Apparently we have someone,
So it goes out to bid Thursday.
oh, okay, so we don't
And
have it
so
yet.
basically what I'm trying to do is avoid the special meeting.
Okay.
And so there will be a version next week that actually has the blanks filled in, but we're all discussing about it.
Okay, perfect. So it's just discussion tonight, so we can avoid the special meeting like we had last time. I appreciate that, thank you. And then resolution to terminate the interlocal agreement for the administration of the Red Lodge Roberts Ambulance District. Sorry if I'm going through these really fast, but just want to touch on each one of them. I'm assuming this is because it's all being done away with because of the vote.
Yep,
vote that happened.
that's just the procedural stuff
So,
related to
yeah,
that.
so we're not actually saying we're no longer gonna have ambulance services.
No.
Just a new, following what the voters said, yes, they wanted this differently, so. Will there be a different, agreement then? Or is, like, forming the whole,
But it's the
Or is that
county-
all county?
It's the county that's
and we
doing
don't
that.
have to worry anything
Yeah.
about that? The
My
county
understanding
handles
is I
it all?
don't think we have to, the voters have already approved of that.
Okay, so, the city won't have to
Now,
worry
having said that, this is the first time the county's going through it too, so as everybody's going through that.
about. Okay.
But Tom's feedback is he didn't understand we needed to do anything other than this particular action.
Resolution to create ballot language outlining,
And that
commercial.
you've got a copy of
yeah.
that, so.
Don't know that, do we really wanna call it outline? Like outlying, like that just sounds so harsh.
No.
How about,
Restricting.
restricting, yeah, or not,
Disallowing is what we call
disallowing.
it.
disallowing.
My gosh, what?
Well, it's already on the agenda here, but
Okay, outline.
we'll change it in future to disallowing.
Create ballot language, disallowing or allowing, because we're actually, or continue, I guess.
To continue allowing or disallowing.
Okay, I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that better. Because, I mean, they could vote for it. Is that,
But what it says, calling into the question of disallowing, so.
okay. Okay, I'm just going by what I had on here, so, okay. All right. Anything else? I'm not gonna touch on the business registration thing today, because I need my helpers here for that, and, anything else for tonight? That, anyone have any comments or anything on anything we covered, or
I don't, I'm good.
everybody good? I appreciate you being here. I'm glad we still
Is-
met.
Actually, it's, public. Yeah, the watering issue is gonna be under Public Works.
Yes.
And by the way, we'll also be having one come up to, for the future rate adjustments with inflation.
So when we did that, where we changed it to follow just the COLA for, like, every year, the rates adjust to COLA, so we wouldn't get so far behind.
Right.
So it actually ages out, and this is the year it ages out, so.
Oh.
Did it have to age out by definition? Do we know?
It says in the, it goes 2025,
I know ours is an age out, what I'm saying is,
Does it have to?
could we have, as we rewrite it, is there an
I
option to
think
write
there-
it
I
not
think
aging
there
out?
is a
I think it
limit.
might be.
I think there's a 5-year limit on that, and you have to readdress it
Okay.
every 5 years. It's just like rate adjustments. You have to
Yeah.
like every 5 years you're supposed to. So we'll just need to do a mailing because the rates will be changing, and it'll just continue with the COLA. That seems to be working good the way it is.
Okay.
And then that keeps us, like, for any of the bonds and stuff, that's keeping us where we need to be, like,
Okay.
eligible on our rates.
So admin will do that, or will
Well,
Public Works?
it's all gonna be part of what you guys are talking in Public Works.
Okay,
We're gonna tie in, the irrigation meter stuff.
right,
we're
and
gonna-
doing an average for that
So we're gonna tie it all
annual
into-
period, or the 9-month period, and then give that sewer rate through the summer, that average rate through the summer for the
Yeah,
sewer.
so we're gonna incorporate all of it together.
Okay.
So we'll put that irrigation stuff within the
Okay.
rate one, so that we don't have to do two separate things, and.
Is it because it would be two different mailers if we did it the other way?
Mhm. And it all pertains to rates.
Yeah, water and sewer rate?
Water sewer
Okay.
rates, so, which technically, the irrigation stuff is actually decreasing, whereas the other one will be increasing.
Yeah.
But it'll be spelled out in there, and
Okay,
so, and Mike will explain it during
Okay.
Public Works a little bit,
Okay.
but.
okay, all right. That sounds good. I guess we just had, budget and, resort tax committee. I didn't make that meeting, but are they planning on coming to council or to,
Not tonight,
no, not tonight,
Um,
I know, I mean, but in the future, do,
as far as their recommendations.
Yeah.
I think they're planning on having it at the next one.
okay.
Um,
I'm just asking for an update since I didn't make it.
yeah, it was a pretty decent review. Let's see if I have any specific notes that will spark.
Oh, that, I'm just curious, and then where we are at the budget process.
So I've got pretty much the general fund, there's still some questions, that we need to go over. But I have pretty much all the expenditure amounts in
Okay,
from all the department heads and stuff, and, I think the mayor is gonna have a meeting with department heads at some point to kind of go over stuff.
okay.
The big thing was they were getting, the resort tax ordinance was done, and so that's coming to us.
Okay,
We've got to get that reviewed by.
okay, so should, I'll add that, to the next agenda, remind me then,
Yeah,
for admin?
yeah, so next time, let's do the resort, so what we need to do is just make sure we have it ready. Good call. Because what this is get it and get input from Dennison,
Okay,
so, but yeah, to add it for future discussion.
yeah, remind me, please. 3 weeks from now, I probably won't remember anything. I have it written down, but that doesn't mean anything.
Oh, says it's not in the packet still out here. Lonnie, are you aware of anything else from staff that they want us to revisit from an ordinance or process or anything wise?
I know we discussed all these letters and stuff, but
All these letters.
for resort tax, is that what you're talking about?
I was just asking in general.
Oh, I thought you guys were still on the resort tax ordinance and stuff.
So, but,
The process for sending out letters for
Oh.
late on resort tax.
Just, are we still just doing the
we're
30 days?
doing the one blast to everybody right now, right? Didn't we change that to?
Well.
If you're 30 days late.
No, we
we're-
send it out to every, because otherwise, there's a level of effort required to learn what everybody's
So there
thirty days
There
are
was an
about.
email sent out, because there's a way to do it on our short-term rentals, to send out a mass.
That just says,
email
hi,
to
this
there.
is a reminder.
Oh,
Remember
okay.
that
And it was
conversation?
sent out the 1st of April. But as far as
No, I don't.
everybody,
Else, that we don't have email addresses for.
correct. And
Yeah.
short-term rentals was one of the main.
That seems to,
Infrastructure.
yeah, short-term
But I
rentals
think,
seem to be the
from
main people
from an
who
instruction
are-
standpoint, it's, we're only required to send it to those that we have email addresses for.
Yeah.
But that was a no cost.
So there's on the resort tax budget, just so you guys are aware, we're looking at a different software company,
Okay,
which is about $3,000 more than what we're paying now, but we found out that this software company is not doing the scans like they should be.
oh, so we might be
Keeping up with the
missing
tech of
some.
scraping.
Yeah, but this other program also has the ability for them to collect the resort tax and then submit it to us.
Oh,
So, or they can submit it directly through Danae and I are gonna go through, I think Chrissy too, on Thursday. We have another demo that we're gonna go through on that
Okay.
one. So, and I think it's a little bit better company as far as keeping up with scanning and stuff. 'Cause
At least currently.
Yeah, because the current one we have, but they're missing, I think, some, and they're not scanning like they said they were.
yeah.
From a budget standpoint, we're probably gonna end up paying for 2 of them, because we won't have this new one in place by June, so there's probably gonna be an overlap, so we're gonna have to budget that into it.
Okay,
That's small numbers relatively speaking, but it's gonna be the cost of
okay,
doing business.
okay.
The new company, when they collect, do they take a percentage?
I'm not sure.
Good question to ask on Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, but that would be a separate one that might be a separate thing. They wouldn't take it from us, or what that resort tax.
They take it on top of like a credit card fee if they do it.
Correct.
My
If
guess
they do it, I don't
is,
know if they do
there's a
it.
definite possibility they may just take a percentage of the holdings, which I don't think would probably be permitted for our ordinance.
No,
Our
no,
ordinance
no.
No, and if
Yeah.
they do, it'd be like a fee, but
And-
it'd be
and
on
I guess
top
I
of
just-
the collection. But
I kind of have, yeah, I guess I need more information on that, because we have the ability for people to pay their resort tax online. And our form, because I did that the last couple times, and it's very easy, you go in there, you put your
taxable sales, and it tells you exactly how much you owe, and if you're late, it tacks on the interest, I mean, it calculates it all out for you already, and so I'm like,
And I don't know if this one is something that, like, how they collect every time somebody stays there. Here's the taxes that they collect and then they hold it,
yeah,
and then they.
that's, I guess, what I would want to know, that
Like-
more details like that, for sure, so, definitely. Because if they're doing that, that's different,
Yeah,
you know, but, but are they running
see, I don't know.
that, because that would be like a VRBO kind of, I don't know how they would do that, because how do they
I'll know more.
Yeah.
Thursday.
keep us updated, I guess, because that would be, yeah, okay.
Are you
I guess
here?
we will adjourn, because I have to go to training, so.